Okay, so here's some awesome Marcus code right here. I always pick on Marcus, but he's a really cool guy. I like Marcus. All right, so right here he's doing some code to create something that looks like a, I don't know, what are you trying to create here? All right. So some function that looks like it's creating an account number of some kind. And here we have a function that's creating social security numbers and date of birth, passwords, some other stuff. Here's some like general PII stuff, first names, last names, that kind of stuff. And here he's just checking the options to see how many entries to generate. And then everything returns back to the module that's using this. So it's pretty easy stuff. Another thing I wanted to show you guys is some of the support that we have in Metasploit for some really interesting like string manipulation and randomization. Mostly it's used in like exploit dev situations, but it could be useful in any kind of module, I imagine. So we have all kinds of stuff in here. We have an array of all the states, upper, alpha, lower, all that stuff. We can do, let's see, JavaScript comments. We can convert a string to JavaScript comments, to Perl, to Java, UTF-8. Okay. All right, so just showing you that real quick. All right, so we'll move on now.
Thanks, Dave. Real quick, Will's going to come up and he's going to talk about how people can use this from a pen tester's perspective.
Right, so when I was brainstorming with Marcus, I was starting to talk about things that I just can't do on a pen test or are bad ideas. So one thing I'm not going to want to do is install malware on the corporate domain. I mean, that's obviously a terrible idea. Two, exfiltrating real PII data that puts me in a bad position, and it's bad for the customer I'm working with. And then exploiting critical servers or systems. So I mean, depending on the scope of the engagement or what the goals are, there's certain servers that I'm just not going to want to attack because they're so business critical that if they went down, that could be a major issue. But there still are things that we can test for as part of those. So egress ports are one. So if we're modeling sort of the malware, we want to test what the command and control can go back out on. So if I'm on the corporate domain, I can begin to test using vSploit, test all of my outbound connections, and then I know how I can make outbound connections. Resolving blacklisted domains is another one, so I don't need to drop malware to do it. I can use vSploit to test these sorts of things. Sending known IDS signatures, so that's another one that's in there, and that can also help in the pen test because then I can know what I might be able to get through if I was attacking it, if it was an IPS rather than IDS. So we can send sets of rules, see how it behaves. And then exfiltrating simulated PII or other data. So rather than actually sending customer PII data, so the credit card numbers, I can send the simulated ones. And the other thing I can do is I can sit with my client and I can say, is your network operations team catching this? Or we can do it with the scheduled part. We can do it at 2 a.m. One, did it get caught? And two, did you see the anomalous usage at that hour? So there's really good stuff that we can begin to test in sort of a simulated fashion rather than having to actually use data. So I wrote a module to do email, and basically what it does is it will send the simulated PII data, and you can set it to do, for instance, Gmail. So it'll connect to a Gmail server and actually send out via email a group of credit card numbers or whatever. And then also web. So another cool one would be if you wanted to post it to Pastebin or Wikipedia, you could test it out actually posting simulated PII data. Sorry, I'm trying to rush because we're running out of time here. So future thoughts, some other really cool stuff, host-based DLP testing. So if you imagine our corporate environment, they have a host-based DLP across the environment. It may be very difficult to test in each instance, but if you were to say create a Meterpreter exe, put it on all of them, have it run it, connect back to Metasploit, and then you could, in an automated fashion, actually test out if the data can leave that workstation and get out, for instance, via Gmail, which is a common way of getting it out. And then you could, using post modules, add in other exfiltration methods. So if there's a new exfiltration method you wanted, you could just modify the post module, still use the PII mixin, so it would be very short, very easy, and you could, with the client, say, here's how I was able to get data out, here's where your host-based DLP is failing you, or your network-based DLP, whatever it is. Then also IDS fingerprinting, which was Bandit's idea, is a really cool idea. So you know the signatures for, you have like known signatures for certain IDSs, and then you begin to send those signatures from a system, and you can actually, in a passive way, fingerprint the IDS itself. So there's a lot of cool stuff that could be done with it, and it could actually bring a lot of value in terms of the pen testing portion. You want to do your demos?
Okay, real quick, I'm going to try to get some demos, and hopefully the demo guides are kind. Okay, how does that look at the back? Do I need to increase the size? See how? Try to raise this up a little bit. Okay, so right now, like I said, hopefully we're going to get as many of these modules in the trunk soon afterwards. If we can keep Dave sober, we're going to get this stuff. We're going to get this stuff in the trunk as soon as possible. So basically, I used some research. 10 minutes. So basically, I've been researching all over the place, and actually, one of our customers asked, "Can we simulate Mariposa?" And some of these things, and the whole point of this is sometimes on your network, there may be things that have been confiscated by the federal agents and all that stuff, but many times you can go into old networks and you can see people beaconing out to all kind of crazy malware that's been retired a long time ago, but people aren't seeing it. So I think it's very, for things like Mariposa, Zeus, and all these things, what I did is I downloaded a list of all the DNS servers historically that they've been using, and I went out, I basically did DNS, I actually used a vSploit module to go out and see which one still responded. And personally, I really don't care if I know some of these have been confiscated and such, but if they reply, I'm kind of wondering why are organizations not blacklisting some DNS names? So I think that you can show with this, I'm just going to run this real quick. And it's straight out, I don't know what the ISP is here, but it just goes out and it starts resolving DNS entries to associated with Mariposa historically. And what's kind of cool about this is this is a pretty safe thing to do on any network. Instead of actually having to install malware on a machine and look at it, and you can't really do that. You wouldn't want to do that on a real environment. You can actually just do this, and it would simulate that traffic. It's hung up for a second here. I don't know if it's having a problem resolving something. But essentially, it's dead simple. You put an array of known bad stuff, and you just do DNS queries on it. Okay, cool. So another thing I want to show you real quick is the Web PI module. Well, wouldn't you know it? Oh, okay. I'm good. Hold on a second. So that's setting me up a listener on that IP address there. I'll just go to it in a browser. And so basically it generates a list, and this is 1,000 pages of data that looks to be credit cards, CVV, social, and all kind of other stuff. And right here, it says metasploit.org here. But if you're concerned with if any kind of emails or anything else leaking out of your organization, you can easily replace that. And with a little bit of Ruby knowledge, you can actually go in and edit this to be relevant to your organization. Now I'm thinking this could be if you're interested in, like if you're a bank, you know, if you have credit card numbers, you can if you have these first couple of digits here usually indicate what kind of bank it is. So if I was a bank, I would put fake stuff there and let it leak out of the network to see if my systems are seeing it. Or if you're a medical institution and you have medical information, you can actually do that. Now, anytime this refresh, it generates I didn't do the auto refresh thing. So you can actually do something because every 15 seconds it's going to generate 1,000 entries. So over time you can actually calculate and you can actually change this to say, if you're a pen tester like Will said, hey, look, I put a server on your network and I leaked all this data out. I took all this information out. Did you actually see any of that data? You're not leaking real data out, but you're just seeing if the organization even has the visibility. Do they have their monitoring devices in the right place? And one of the other things is the next one I'm going to show you real quick is I've actually been actually playing around with the snort rules. What's up, guys over there? My source fire guys in the house. So I'm gonna just do front page. So in a case, there's not a lot of environments that have all their snort rules turned on, but every once in a while there's environments that like you might want this rule, and this rule. So I was saying in those particular cases, what you want to do is you want to be able to send information to those particular servers that you're concerned about and actually see. So I actually looked in the VRT rules and show options. And I'm actually using a scanner mix-in, and the scanner mix-in, you can actually send it to several devices. So if you have a VLAN of like, you know, a Class C, and you want to actually be able to send stuff to that whole entire Class C, you can put in a range, or you can put in a singular IP address. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set our host to metasploit.com, and I can run this, and what it does is just does HTTP requests that should generate some of these rules. Now I haven't vetted it every one of these work yet, but I know I played around with Snort a little bit, and it definitely does trigger some of the rules. So if you're actually interested in some of these things going to your servers, you could do it. Now this is not intended to try to flood Snort or blind operators or anything. It's just an attempt to to be able to point particular rules, what I call attributes, towards certain different assets and be able to see if you actually have your IDS configured properly. So I think that we're at the end now, and I appreciate everyone for coming. Thank you very much.